Well, the game key card saga never seems to end. I feel like I'm talking about this on almost a daily basis now, but we do have an update that has lots of people potentially excited. Some are getting way too excited and declaring victory that the survey made Nintendo change their mind and now game key cards are going away and it's all physical in the future. And I'm like, hold your horses, people. Let's not put the cart before the horse. We got to slow this down a little bit. We have to look at the bigger situation. We have to look at the wording that is happening with this because I'm not quite sure it's exactly what people are expecting. Do I think it is good news? Yes, I do. Because the onus on this whole game key card situation at the end of the day falls upon one company, and that is Nintendo. They only provide a 64 gigabyte cartridge for a physical game right now, which obviously, if your game is much smaller or much bigger than that, it's not going to go on there. If it's even somewhat close to it, if a company feels like they're not going to make up the exorbitant cost of having to purchase that physical cartridge, they're going to do things like game key cards. That is the reason that this is happening. I don't understand why people don't understand that. But let's take a look at this thread that has been making the rounds on the interwebs because I have a lot of things I want to say about this. This is coming to us from Blue Sky. Nintendo Patents Watch put out this information here, and I almost feel bad because I don't know if they're like getting paid on there or something like that, but everyone just took this information and put it on Twitter. Stop using Blue Sky. Nobody cares about Blue Sky. They steal your information and then they put it on Twitter, but whatever. Some new info regarding Switch 2 game cards emerged from the latest quarterly financial results. ROM became the primary ROM supplier for Nintendo Switch 2 game cards. Macronix, primary ROM supplier for Nintendo Switch 1 game cards, didn't ship any for Nintendo Switch 2. Macronix is preparing cards for varying capacity needs. And then you go in here. So this wasn't like a press briefing or anything like that. This is basically people taking this information from an analytical standpoint and then applying it to a real world situation, which in theory is fine, but I feel like we're jumping to conclusions, kind of like that doormat in Office Space, like way too quickly with this, because you kind of got to look at some other things that could be potentially involved in this. So this goes on. From April to June, ROM's consumer segment sales grew 4.1 billion yen quarter over quarter in Japan. It was due to significant demands for amusement products. This confirms what we saw from the Nintendo Switch 2 game card teardown. ROM is the ROM chip supplier. So we're talking about an actual cartridge here. We're talking about like a Mario Kart or something like that, where the game is on the entire cartridge. And you can see here they went up and all that sort of stuff. In the same quarter, Macronix, not only didn't see a boost of ROM sales, but a decline of 2% quarter over quarter and 4% year over year. UAnalyze reported that Micronix expects to supply ROM for Switch 2 in half two, or like the second half of the year, but the timing depends on the client's demand. And then you see here their basic stuff here, and then UAnalyze report also includes a peculiar quote. So now we are taking this and we are translating it, which this isn't a huge statement to make or anything like that. So I feel like the translation could be done very easily, but that is something to keep in mind as things do get mistranslated. Macronix disclosed that going forward, it will manufacture game cards using either in-house MLC NAND or procured 3D ND according to various capacity needs. And then this is odd for several reasons. Macronix produces 3D NAND themselves. Why buy it? Does their own 3D NAND not meet Nintendo's cost or spec requirements? Is this why ROM got the first batch of business? An MLC NAND game cartridge should be cheaper, slower, and smaller than a 3D NAND game cartridge. Is that an answer to the unpopular game key cards? However, now this is everyone misses this part. I wanted to say portion, but part came out and it came out like port. Everyone is missing this portion of it. And this is the problem I have with so many of these people on social media and on YouTube. It's just believe what you want to believe, take the information, and then make it into your own image. Let's read this together. However, the report doesn't specify whether both cards are intended for Nintendo Switch 2. It's possible that the MLC NAND GC is for Nintendo Switch 1 only. Also unclear if varying capacity means multiple sizes or just two. Lastly, we don't know if this is truly an action plan or merely a backup option. And when you think about it from that perspective, you have to ask more questions because this is not a declaration of, oh my God, there's going to be more game cartridge sizes and stuff like that. Okay. So more than likely, the MLC NAND is definitely Switch 1. Okay, like let's just get that out of the way here. We're looking at the 3D NAND and how that is being talked about in this. Is this a backup option or is this an action plan? Is this something that is being done or is this what they're just hopefully anticipating happening? Because we're running into a situation with this where, yes, part of the problem would indeed be solved. The smaller games will now have a way to get on a physical cartridge, which obviously is something we've talked about many times on this channel. Games, retro compilations, games like that, smaller indie games that get a physical release and stuff like that. A lot of those games are not going to be able to get a physical cartridge on the Nintendo Switch 2 because they're not going to want to buy the 64 gigabyte cartridge. So if there's one alternative or multiple alternatives or something like that, that is definitely a step in the right direction to sort of quell this issue. Now, you're still going to have the issue at the end of the day with games over 64 gigabytes because those games are going to be your AAA games. Your AAA games are probably always going to be game key cards. But the whole thing about this is none of this is declarative. None of this is concrete. None of this is written in stone. When you think about what is happening with the Nintendo Switch 2, you also have something called Nintendo Switch 2 Edition games of Nintendo Switch 1 games. And who's to say that there won't be more of those cartridges that need to be manufactured, which would make sense for it to be something that this company, Macronix, could be doing. Could be the ones behind it. It could be something completely different as well. I have talked to a few different people, not my normal people or anything like that, but I've talked to a few different people. And one person who I trust said something along the lines of, I think I know what it is, and it has nothing to do with what anyone is talking about. And that really struck a chord with me because everyone is just running with this as now there's going to be multiple cartridge sizes and everything's going to be physical. We win. The survey that you did yesterday made Macronix talk about this in a quarterly report. The survey that Japan did a couple of weeks ago, that's what tipped it over the hill. Nothing else. Nothing else. And I'm not trying to say that the survey means nothing. But really, the survey means nothing. It's just a way for them to gauge how you are spending your money. The fact that I could have done the survey multiple times without requiring a login as well to link my Nintendo account to it just goes to show you how much of a throwaway thing this truly was. Think about all of the surveys that you fill out online all the time and how much of a difference it makes. I saw some tweet where someone was equating this game keycard situation to the 3DS Ambassadors program and saying we've done it before and we could do it again or something along those lines. You do realize why the 3D Ambassadors program existed, right? Because the 3DS came out and nobody was buying it and nobody was buying the games at the price that it released at. So they dropped the price and then they gave a bunch of Game Boy Advance games to 3DS owners who were early adopters for it, that the only way to get those was to be an early adopter as like a thank you. We messed up. We overcharged you to begin with. So here's a couple free games. How in the hell is that the same as equating a survey that you just filled out to thinking that is what is causing this? I'm not saying that there's not going to be multiple cartridge sizes, because I think that does make sense. I think everyone can agree on that. You have to question why there wasn't multiple game cartridge sizes available at the launch of the system, though, because that's not going to retroactively fix some of these games. And this is not a declaration that game key cards are going away, because you still have all of the games that are over 64 gigabytes that if they were to make a 128 gigabyte cartridge, imagine how much that would cost. We know that the cartridge allegedly costs $17 according to the NIS America leaks that a third-party company has to pay. So $30 to sell your game for $70 or $80? You really think companies are going to do that? If this does become anything, it's going to be the lower end stuff, which is still a win. Don't get me wrong. Those retro compilations, smaller games, AA games, and stuff like that, that'll be a very good thing. But none of this is declarative. None of this is concrete proof or concrete evidence. Really, as it stands right now, it is at best speculation, because we don't even know if Macronix is expecting this to happen or if they want this to happen, which are kind of two different things. But let me know in the comment section down below. What do you think? I know people are going to be pissed off at me. Oh, you're so negative. No, I'm being realistic about the situation. I'm not going to gas you up and say, oh, yeah, this definitely means that. And then when it doesn't happen, or it takes years and years to happen, and people are like, well, where are the different, why do we still have game key cards? So-and-so on Twitter, so-and-so on YouTube told me that these were going away, and the physical won, and we won with our survey. And I'll be sitting there looking at you saying, hey, I try to warn you. I try to warn you. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Yes, I did upload this at 7 a.m. Eastern time just to beat Spawn Wave because I'm a petty, petty man. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.